Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
How do you feel about a raw ale?
I don't know. Is it safe?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We've had a raw ale on here before, a sati, that was inspired by the work of Mika Leitinen, who wrote the book Viking Age Brew. Make sure I don't have a reflection on it. But he was on the show the other day to tell me how to make a hoppy raw ale. And the sati that you and I had a long time ago is kind of a pseudo sati that I brewed with Kvike. This is also brewed with Kvike, using Pog from Imperial. So this is a beer that has not been boiled. And you said, is it safe? Let's go through the process and kind of talk about how this happened. So what I did was I started into 7 gallons or 26.5 liters of water at 158 degrees Fahrenheit or 70 C. I put 12 pounds or 5.4 kilograms of Vienna malt. So, and I hit the strike temperature, initial strike temperature of 148 degrees Fahrenheit or 64.4 C. And I recirculated the wort through the mash with a recirculating pump for 2 hours. Oh, wow. So after about the first 20 minutes, I stuck a saucepan under the spigot of the spray head on the lid and collected about 2 quarts of thin wort, it wasn't full strength. Then I brought that into the kitchen, and into that wort I boiled 2 ounces or 56 grams of Cascade at 6.1% alpha acid. I boiled that hop tea made with the wort for 1 hour. So there is a little bit of boiling. So I took that hop tea and I returned it to the top of the mash so that the wort would be recirculated over that. And that's how we got the bitterness in the beer. So after that 2 hours, I raised the temperature of the wort or of the mash to 170 degrees Fahrenheit or 77 C for a mash out.
Right.
And once it reached that, I mashed out for 10 minutes. Then I collected my wort, and into the hot wort in the bucket, I put another 2 ounces or 56 grams of Cascade for a 10-minute hop stand.
Okay.
And then I chilled it with a recirculating chiller in the bucket to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 C. And then I pitched, crazy as that sounds, I pitched A37 Pog from Imperial at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 C. And boy, 2 hours later, it was bubbling, it was going.
Yeah.
So it fermented so I brewed on the 16th, on the 20th, 4 days later, I dry hopped with another 2 ounces of Cascade. And the top of that, the foam, the kreuzen on the top of that beer was like thick.
Yeah.
It was like, it was the thickest I'd ever seen. It was kind of like, something that you find on top of a pie or something. So I dry hopped for 2 days and then kegged. And by that time, most of the kreuzen had fallen back in. So what we have here is a beer that started out at 1048. It finished at 1012 for an ABV of 4.7% or 164 calories. So let's taste it and then let's talk about the safety aspects. Cheers. Cheers.
Well, that's very tasty.
It's really good.
That's a slammer.
Oh, in that you went.
Yeah. Give me another one.
It smells good. You can smell those Cascade hops. I'm getting some lemony character in there as well, and I think that's coming from the Pog. Even though I pitched it at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, I took it inside, and the temperature, fell after that. And they say at the lower end of the temperature range, you get kind of subtle lemony characteristics from that yeast, and I think that it's a Kvike, and so I think that I get that. What do you think about the beer, just in general?
It's delicious. It's well brewed. I like it has plenty of body, which I really like that. The last couple of beers I've brewed, I haven't been happy with the body that I've gotten into them. And this one is very satisfying without being chewy.
Gloppy, yeah.
Yeah, it's not gloppy. It's not a big, heavy winter beer. So it's a really good spring, summer beer. The hop balance is very nice in it. I do get the Cascade hops. The nice thing about Cascade is you can really recognize them. You know, like Cascade, Mosaic, and maybe Amarillo. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to, I don't know, experimental 94, 80. Like, oh, it's got a little bubble gum. But so I really like that about it, and I like the carbonation level. I know that that has to do with how you kegged it, but I really like the level of carbonation in this beer because it's not overly carbonated, meaning that it would be it's more quaffable to me. When I have a very effervescent beer, like a farmhouse, you know, a true farm, I don't say true farmhouse, but you know, that's highly effervescent.
Right.
I can't drink as much of that because that effort that
It's
those
like
bubbles are.
trying to slam a Coke.
Yeah, it's just like, whoa. So this is just very friendly. I also think this would be really food friendly too. Real easy beer, and this would be a beer that I would serve to my non-craft beer relatives, and feel pretty confident with it.
Now, I think that the mouthfeel on the interview, Mika said that he likes the mouthfeel of raw ale because it's, you know, there's more protein in there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, after I racked this beer into the keg, there was hardly any trub at the bottom. It was just,
all
I
in
guess,
there.
all yeast.
Yeah.
You know, because it didn't have a protein break because it didn't boil.
Right.
And so what you get is this almost velvety kind of character that's really satisfying. But then the bitterness from the hops, I think there is, it's not a West Coast IPA kind of bitterness, but there is enough bitterness in there to balance out the sweetness of the wort.
Definitely.
So safety, we didn't boil, but I maintained a temperature of 148 degrees Fahrenheit or 64.4 C for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then raised it up to 170 degrees. So it's pasteurized.
Yep, absolutely.
So, whereas, when you boil something, just very quickly after you hit the boiling point, it's sanitized.
Right.
If you maintain a lower temperature for a shorter or a longer period of time, you get sort of similar effects. Plus, we've had fermentation, plus the pH is probably in the safe levels. We have isomerized the hops. It is not a no-boil beer because I did boil the hops, that hop tea. So we get the isomerization of the hops. We don't get coagulation of the proteins, which is why it's a cloudy beer. This would be a good technique to make, hazy beers because I don't think this is ever going to clear out.
No, I don't think it will either.
But it's delicious. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't taste gloppy. It doesn't taste sickeningly sweet. It is a legitimate thing. I mean, just look at the way the lacing is hanging around on there, and you can tell that it's got some weight to it. It's not a thin beer at all.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, and I'd pay $1 for that.
So was it a faster brew day because I didn't boil? Not really, because I ran the mash for 2.5 hours or whatever, 2 hours at that initial temperature, and then the time it took to get up to the mash out. So I don't know that, and plus I had to do the extra step of collecting some of the wort and boiling the hops in it. So from an expediency standpoint, I don't think that I was saving a lot of time or trouble, but I think it is a different thing. It does taste different from just an ordinary pale ale.
It does. I was just thinking how it would be interesting to have this beer and then have the exact same recipe, except to brew it in a more standard way, where you do a standard boil, standard mash, standard boil, standard break, and then compare the two.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd both be good, but this is and does have more body, it's more velvety. It makes me think, because this is something I've never done. I've never done a raw ale like this. I would think that this would lend itself toward making stouts, or
Oh yeah.
just, because when I make a stout, I like that kind of breadiness, or that little bit richer, more velvety. I'm kind of after that, but I don't necessarily want it to be thick and heavy and hoppy.
Yeah.
So this might be a technique to try to see if you could achieve that and have that velvetyness at about a 4.5 to 5% beer that doesn't knock you.
Yeah.
It's not too much. So
And this is a smash beer because I only used Vienna and Cascade, so it really shows off both the malt character of the Vienna and the hop character of the Cascade. I think it was very successful.
yeah, and I like the malt character of the beer, and that the Vienna is a really nice malt. I don't think it gets used enough in the U.S. as a base malt. It gets used a lot as a specialty malt, at least in my experience with homebrewers. That I'll put a half a pound of Vienna in. I'd be like, no, put 10 pounds in. It's like brewing it.
Right. And so I used a little bit, a couple pounds more because I didn't, when you boil, you're concentrating your wort, you're increasing the gravity as you're boiling off water. So, that
Really good point.
I did spend, I don't know how much extra on a couple more pounds of Vienna, but it's a 5-gallon batch. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I think I had fun. And I would do it again. So be interested to see, check in the comments or comment if you've done a similar approach to brewing a beer, and check out Mika's book and our conversation on the podcast, and I'll put when that was down here as well. So,
good job.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mika for the help. And we always have fun. I always have fun talking to him on the show. So anyway, check it out.
Yep.
Drink some delicious
Drink
beers.
some delicious raw beer. Put a raw egg in your beer.
You've probably done that.
Yeah. Well.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Peace out.
Come and visit us online at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer.
Looks like you got a dickie.
I know. That's why I got my cravat.
Straighten your dickie. All right, here we go.